a quick history of Sweden. It has been touched by Bert Olson, the former director of Sida, Sida Sareki. But let me touch a bit. We started with bilateral agreement, government-to-government relationship. And this was way back in 1962, immediately after attaining our independence. And the history behind it was, you can see that lady, Barbara Johansson. We have 1 second screen, slightly outside the city. And this is a history behind of how we got into having a relationship with Sweden. This came as a missionary way back in the 40s. Actually, it was in 1949. And later, she contested and won a parliamentary seat during in the TANU party. And actually, she was very revolutionary. And when Nyerere was visiting the European countries for the first time, and started with the UK, Barbara convinced Nyerere to briefly visit Sweden, with the focus of connecting him with the president by then, who was the Socialist Party, Elanga. And Elanga, his era actually went up to 1969. And then soon after, Olaf Palme picked up, again, Elanga connected it to Olaf Palme. But the history behind between Elanga and Palme and Barbara, Elanga was the president of students at Lundi. And Lundi is one of the universities which had started the anti-apartheid movement. So the history behind between Nyerere and Elanga during that time was to support the liberation movement in South Africa. Students had focused much more on the anti-apartheid movement, and it was focusing much more on universities, some of the universities in South Africa. But the relationship between Elanga, or Sweden by that time, government Sweden by that time, was to see to it how Sweden can help Tanzania in the liberation movement. And actually Sweden expanded its intention. It went way back to other countries as well, but it focused much more on the southern part of Africa, including Zambia and other countries. So it has a regional movement. So through that relationship, you can see clearly that the government of Sweden started to see how best now which project can help Tanzania. And we have several projects, as you can see, and also have the major project in the 70s, the Kidatu Hydro, as you know, most of you. We have the Stiglas Gorge, which didn't took off, but it was a very powerful project. It ended up at the stage of preliminary studies because of environmental impact assessment. It was disqualified, but it has the potential of supplying electricity within Tanzania and neighboring countries. Sweden also is a country which supported, initiated the Kibaha Center, which covers health and education. I think you know all of them. Sida, small industries. When we came into the trade liberalization, most of the industries, the successful industries actually are those who managed to get support, machinery support from Sida on hire purchase system. So they had managed to get machineries from Sweden. So through this stage, we went now, Sweden looked at it on how best it can help us. And you can see to it that by then, Utafiti Research Council had already been established in 1968. So the annual approach, which thought was to capacitate the Research Council. And that was way back in 1976, 77. I think it was the financial year of 77, so to say. So, and we got assistance, Utafiti got assistance from 76 to 1985. And as I said before, it was focusing much more on research, on institutional research support. And finally, the institution. It was a council, actually. It wasn't faring very well, according to the expectations. And later, we changed it into COSTECH to be a commission. And we enacted a law in particular so that at least we can fill in the gaps of the Research Council. That's where now Sweden also decided again to see to it what kind of improvement we are going to make, being it a COSTECH. Will it be very different from the Commission? And we had to enter again into a general agreement. And you look at it from 1990, we now started to enter into frame agreements, if you look at it. And fortunately, in 1990, Tanzania had managed to form its own ministry now, the Ministry of Communication, Science and Technology, which also was an impetus for us to argue before the parliament on how we can handle the issues of science and technology. Now, a few things which COSTECH has covered, if you look at it, from the support we got from Sweden is the human resources. There are a number of areas which we have built capacity in human resources, if you look at it, and it ranges from innovation management and intellectual property rights, and many others. And you can see the number, and the highest number is 18, and this is on governance and the performance management. And the focus here was much more on how we can be accountable to the researches which we are undertaking. And again, the other area on institutional capacity building is infrastructure. You look at it here, you can see clearly. This is the e-library, and actually the intention is to make sure that at least all R&D institutions which are affiliated to us can access the library information from the server, and this is the main server. So these are the few achievements which we have got. And also underneath here, you can find this is the knowledge laboratory, which we are now at the end, at the stage, and we expect that at least this is where the information will be publicized and it will be shared by the public. The other area is research grants. We have received so far about 28 research projects covering a wide range of areas, but the major ones is agriculture, industry, and livestock, if you look at the extreme left. And the other areas which we got support from Sida is innovative clusters. I think you can visit one of our booths. We're having 2 booths outside. And one of it it covers about innovative clusters and how it has helped small and medium enterprises to make sure that their products are competitive. So we had 3 batches. If you look at it, it started way back in 2006 up to 2015. And we managed to identify and establish about 67 clusters. And all these are in the major areas of agriculture and farming, ICT, manufacturing, cultural heritage, and tourism. The geographical dispersion, if you look at it, most of them are in Morogoro, 8, if you look at it, number 8. If you go to our booth, you can clearly see some of the products of these clusters. And the second one is Dar es Salaam. We have almost 6 clusters. And the third one is Zanzibar, which has about 5. And the rest are distributed all over Tanzania, if you look at it. The other area is innovation, is support to innovation. Most of this innovation are from the clusters, basically. But here, we are trying to focus much more on the impact of the innovation which was made by some of these clusters. Clearly, you can see there is an increased job creation. If you visit those booths, you can clearly see the specific data on the job creation, but also improve the productivity, but also improve the quality and standards of cluster products, and also increase the turnover among the clusters. So if you look at the right, you can see clearly some improvements of, like the second one here. These are roof tiles which are made from the SISO wastes, from the SISO cluster. So these are the roof tiles which are being reinforced by the SISO fibers. And if you look at it here, underneath here, this is the seaweed, which we used to export raw as it is, but now it is being processed under some value addition. And a lot of products which are made from the seaweed. And finally, you can see the oil from sunflower. But what has been done here is the processing was not complete. It wasn't the same, it wasn't double, but now some of them has been refined to a stage where at least they can be fit for human consumption. And the consumption now, if you look at it, is well accepted by the society. And next is some of the system we have developed so far, which are used by the institution, but some of them are national. If you look at the institutional systems, we have the environmental policies, this for our internal consumptions. We have the occupational the policy, and we have the quality management system, which enabled us actually to follow the ISO 9001. We have also the gender policy. All these instruments are in place and are waiting to be approved by the board, basically. On the right-hand side, you look at it, we have the national instruments, which also are waiting to be approved by the board. We have the research integrity framework. We have also the postdoctoral framework, and I think it has covered by most of the presenters in the morning. And finally, we have the research and innovation monitoring framework. So these instruments are in place, and they are waiting to be approved by the board. And actually, they are going to help us a lot when it comes to managing research, and as well as transparency and accountability. So this marks the end of my presentation.